I remember the first time I saw him. It was at a charity gala in the city, one of those events where everyone wears masks of politeness, and the champagne flows like water. I was there because my company sponsored it, not because I cared about the cause. My name is Ruth, and at 35 I owned half the skyline in the city. Skyscrapers with my name on them, private planes with my initials, a walk-in closet bigger than most apartments. I had everything money could buy, and I made sure no one could take it away. Marriage. That was a contract with too many loopholes. Love? A distraction for people who didn't know how to build their own empire. I was single, powerful, and perfectly fine alone. Then I met Gaius. It was a charity gala on a rooftop in late summer. The air smelled of roses and expensive perfume. I wore a midnight blue gown that cost more than most cars, and I stood by the bar watching people pretend they cared about the cause. I was there because my company paid for the tables. I didn't expect to meet anyone who mattered. He walked in like he didn't belong and yet owned the room anyway. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair a little messy, wearing a simple black shirt open at the collar. No tucks, no watch flashing diamonds. Just confidence. He scanned the crowd the way a soldier scans a field, quick, sharp, missing nothing. Then his eyes landed on me. I felt it like a spark. He crossed the floor, ignoring the women who turned to stare and the men who tried to shake his hand. When he reached me, he didn't bow or flatter. He just smiled. "Ruth Harrington," he said. "I've heard you close deals before breakfast." "And you are?" I asked, lifting my chin. "Gaius Reed. I keep people safe for a living. Tonight, I'm off the clock." I laughed. Most men tried to impress me with their bank accounts. He didn't even mention money. We talked for hours. He told me about growing up in a small town, joining the army at 18, starting a security company after he came home. I told him about losing my parents young, building my first property empire with nothing but grit and a loan I shouldn't have qualified for. By the time the music slowed and the crowd thinned, he slipped a card into my hand. "No pressure," he said. "Just coffee. Friends." I didn't call for 3 days. I told myself I was busy. Truth was, I was nervous. Men usually wanted something from me, my money, my name, my connections. Gaius didn't seem to want anything at all. When I finally texted, he replied in seconds, "Tomorrow. 7 a.m. The little place by the river. I'll bring the good coffee." He did. And donuts. We sat on a bench watching the water, laughing about how I once fired a CEO for wearing mismatched socks to a board meeting. He told me about the time he guarded a pop star who insisted on bringing her pet llama on tour. The morning stretched into lunch, then into a walk through the park. By sunset, I realized I hadn't checked my phone once. That was the beginning. We made rules. Friends. Nothing more. No sleepovers unless we both agreed. No jealousy. No falling. The rules lasted exactly 6 weeks. It started small. He'd text good morning with a photo of the sunrise from wherever his job took him, Dubai, London, a tiny island off Greece. I'd send him pictures of ridiculous real estate listings, a castle in Scotland, a treehouse in Costa Rica. He'd reply, "We should go." Just to see if the drawbridge works. One Friday, a deal I'd worked on for 8 months collapsed. I sat in my office until midnight, staring at the contract like it had betrayed me personally. My phone buzzed. "Open the door." I did. Gaius stood there in a hoodie and jeans, holding 2 paper bags that smelled like heaven, Thai food and bad action movies, he said. "Doctor's orders." We ate on the floor of my living room, because the table was covered in paperwork. He didn't ask about the deal. He just made me laugh until my sides hurt. When the credits rolled on the third movie, I looked at him and said, "Stay." He stayed. We didn't break the rules that night. We just talked until the sky turned pink. He told me about the scar on his shoulder, shrapnel in Afghanistan. I told him about the first apartment I ever bought, a tiny studio with a leaking roof and a view of a brick wall. I fell asleep on the couch with his arm around me. The next morning, he made pancakes shaped like skyscrapers. I laughed so hard syrup went up my nose. That was the first time I begged him, not for anything physical. I begged him to never stop making me laugh like that. To never stop showing up with donuts and terrible movies when my world felt too heavy. He looked at me with those steady eyes and said, "Never." And he never did. Our friendship grew roots. He came to my office with lunch when I forgot to eat. I went to his gym and tried to learn how to throw a punch. He laughed when I nearly knocked myself out with my own elbow. We started a tradition. Every Sunday, no matter where we were, we found a new place to explore. A hidden bookstore. A rooftop garden. A food truck that only opened at 3 a.m. one Sunday. He blindfolded me and drove for 2 hours. When he took off the blindfold, we were at an airfield. A small plane waited. "Ever flown in something this tiny?" he asked. I hadn't. My planes had bedrooms and champagne. This one had 2 seats and a propeller that looked older than me. He flew us over the mountains at sunset. The sky turned gold and purple, and the world below looked like a map I could fold up and keep in my pocket. When we landed, he pulled out a picnic, sandwiches, strawberries, a bottle of sparkling cider. "I can't give you the world," he said. "But I can give you this sky." I begged him to promise we'd come back. He promised. We did. Every year on that same day, winter came, and with it, storms. Not the weather kind. A rival company launched a takeover bid. The press called it the Battle for Harrington Towers. I lived in boardrooms, fueled by coffee and rage. I snapped at assistants, ignored friends, forgot to eat. Gaius showed up at my office at 2 a.m. with a thermos of soup and a look that said, "Enough, pack a bag," he said. "We're leaving. I have a war to win. You'll win it better with sleep and actual food." He drove us to a cabin in the woods. No Wi-Fi. No cell service. Just snow falling outside and a fireplace inside. He cooked pasta while I stared at the flames. Then he handed me a notebook. "Write down everything you're afraid of losing," he said. "Then we burn it." I wrote for an hour. My company. My reputation. My control. When I finished, he took the pages, crumpled them, and tossed them into the fire. The flames ate my fears one by one. That night, I begged him to never stop believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. He held my face in his hands and said, "I see you, Ruth. The real you. And she's unstoppable." The next morning, I called my team with a new plan. We crushed the takeover in 3 weeks. Spring brought adventure. He convinced me to try skydiving. I said yes, because I was terrified, and because he promised to hold my hand the whole way down. We jumped tandem, his arms around me, the wind roaring, the earth rushing up. When we landed in a field of wildflowers, I laughed so hard I cried. "Again?" he asked. "Never," I gasped. "Then, yes. But next time, I jump alone." He taught me. Weekends at the drop zone, learning to pack my own parachute, to trust the air. The first time I jumped solo, he waited on the ground with a sign, "You own the sky now." I did. Summer meant the ocean. I owned a small island, barely more than a sandbar with a house and a dock. We flew down in my plane, just the 2 of us. Days of swimming with sea turtles, nights of stargazing. One night, a storm rolled in. Thunder shook the house. The power went out. We lit candles and played cards by flickering light. I won every hand. He let me, I think. When the rain stopped, we walked to the beach. The moon hung low, silver on the waves. I took his hand. Gaius. Yeah. I need to tell you something. He waited. I broke the rules. He smiled, soft. Which one? All of them. He pulled me close. Good. Because I broke them first. We didn't kiss. Not yet. We just stood there, waves at our feet, the whole world quiet except our hearts. Fall painted the city gold. We walked through parks, crunching leaves, drinking hot cider. He started leaving his toothbrush at my place. I started keeping his favorite cereal in my pantry. We stopped pretending we were just friends. Then came the night that changed everything. I was hosting a gala, my company's 10th anniversary. The ballroom glittered. I wore a gown the color of champagne. Gaius wore a tux for the first time, and I nearly forgot how to speak. After my speech, he took my hand and led me to the balcony. The city sparkled below us like a promise. Ruth, he said, voice low. I need to ask you something. My heart stopped. He dropped to one knee. In his hand was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the light like a star. I can't give you empires, he said. But I can give you every sunrise, every laugh, every quiet morning with bad coffee and good company. I can give you my whole heart, if you'll have it. I couldn't speak. Tears blurred the city lights. Marry me, Ruth. Let's break all the rules together. I nodded. Then I found my voice. Yes. 1,000 times yes. I begged him that night, not for passion, but for forever. To never stop choosing me, every single day. He slipped the ring on my finger and whispered, never. The wedding was small. Just family, mine by choice, his by blood, and friends who'd become family. We said vows under an arch of white roses. I promised to trust him with my fears. He promised to hold my hand through every storm. We honeymooned in that same cabin where he'd burned my fears. This time, we brought fairy lights and danced in the living room to songs only we knew. Years passed like pages in a book I never wanted to end. We built a treehouse in the backyard of our new house, the one we designed together, with a library for me and a gym for him. We adopted a dog who thought he was a person. We traveled, hot air balloons in Turkey, northern lights in Iceland, street food in Bangkok. We fought sometimes. About stupid things, like whose turn it was to take out the trash, and big things, like when I worked too much and forgot our anniversary. But we always came back to the same promise, never stop. One December evening, 10 years after that first gala where it all began, we returned to the rooftop that started everything. The city below glittered like a field of stars turned upside down, and snow fell soft and steady, blanketing the world in quiet wonder. The same fairy lights still hung along the railing, though a few had faded with time, like us, weathered but still shining. He wore the same black shirt, though it fit a little tighter across his shoulders now. I wore my midnight blue coat, the one I'd almost thrown away years ago, but could never quite part with. It still smelled faintly of winter and memory. He took my hand in his, that same hand that had built skyscrapers, held our children, wiped tears, and written me love notes on napkins. Still happy, he asked, his voice low, half lost in the hush of falling snow. I looked out at the city we'd built together, not just of steel and glass, but of laughter and late-night takeout, of arguments that turned into hugs, of inside jokes that never grew old. The skyline was ours in more ways than one. Happier than I ever thought possible, I said. He smiled, that same crooked grin that once disarmed me at a crowded party. He pulled me close, his breath warm against the cold. Remember the first time you begged me? I laughed softly. To never stop making me laugh. He grinned wider. And? I tipped my face up to his. Don't stop. Snowflakes melted on our lips as he kissed me, slow, tender, certain. Never, he whispered. And he never did. We still explore every Sunday. The dog comes now, older, slower, but just as joyful, tail wagging like he understands every word of our conversations. We still fly, too. Sometimes in my sleek plane cutting through the clouds, other times in the tiny propeller one that always smells faintly of oil and nostalgia. We burn things in the fireplace, but not out of anger anymore. Now it's love letters we write each other every anniversary, promising the same things in new words. Time has changed us, softened the edges, deepened the roots. I am still Ruth Harrington, CEO, empire builder, woman who conquered boardrooms and headlines. But I am also Ruth Reed, wife, partner, dreamer, the girl who once thought love was a distraction, until it became her greatest inspiration. Every night, before we fall asleep, I still whisper the same words, though they mean something different now. They are not a plea anymore, but a quiet prayer of gratitude. Don't ever stop. He always answers the same way, eyes half closed, voice full of warmth. Never. Our story isn't perfect. It's messy and loud and full of burned dinners, forgotten anniversaries, and mismatched socks. But it's real. It's ours. And somehow, it keeps growing, one sunrise, one laugh, one promise at a time. I used to think I didn't need anyone, that strength meant standing alone. But I was wrong. True strength was learning to let someone in, to let love change the shape of your life without breaking it. I needed him. And through every storm, every season, every version of us, he never stopped showing up.